Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing part 2 of our seat install. This video is going to include all of the installation for the mounts and the seats front and rear. Alright, so just real quick, this is the mounts needed for the driver's seat and then obviously the driver's seat. In the beginning it tells you to use non-lock nuts, which is great because you have to take this apart a couple times until you get it just right, so keep that in mind. Again, their instructions are very thorough. I did go ahead and mount the sliders to the base brackets, which is in the instructions. It tells you to do that. I also marked where the cable is going to go that it attaches from the adjuster to the other adjuster, so that's ready to go. And got all that ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and throw these in and kind of work from there and go through the process. All right, so as the instructions tell you, you're going to reuse the factory bolts that hold the original seats on. And you'll notice now why you have to put this on first, because it's really difficult to get those bolts when these are on.
Hey bro, crank it up. Wow. Wow. Wow.
All right, next is going to be putting the side pieces on. These go on here and here. Their instructions tell you how to put these bolts in before you put these on. Don't forget to do that, because you can't put them on once you have this bolted down, or it's very difficult to do. And then this one over here as well. These are universal, left and right, doesn't matter. All right, if you are going to be running the 5th point harness, this is the time to put this part on here. Goes on like so, and I believe that's going to be it. Now, so this is what I kind of installed this once and took it back out. What I found was when you tighten these guys up, this is your adjustment here. You can see kind of like left and right, or on the seat. So this is going to come into play when you go to put the actual seat in, because it mounts on the outside of here and the outside of here. And if this is not right, you'll have a gap or it won't fit. So you have to start with them in a little bit, keep these loose, and then you lay the seat in there, bolt the seat down, and then retighten these back up. Then take it back apart and bolt everything back down a lot tighter your second go around, and that's when you attach the cable here to here. That's what I've learned so far. So we're going to go ahead and now I'll put all these 4 bolts down loose, and then we'll go put the seat in. All right, so these are the bolts here that you're going to get lined up. The gray one is part of the seat, and then also the black is the mount. There's going to be 4, one here, but you see how this is, the mount is on the outside. Sorry, the tab of the seat is on the outside. If you're using the lower mounts only, then these tabs are going to be on the outside both. If you use the spacer one that I showed y'all earlier, and it bolts on the outside here, then you'll be putting this tab on the inside of this side, and then on the outside, the other side towards the console. I know it's confusing, but that's all in the instructions for a reason. So we're going to put these guys in real quick. Hey! All right, so now we're going to go through, we're going to tighten all the 4 bolts that hold the seat to the bracket. And then once that's tight, Then we're going to go and tighten up those 4 lower ones that bolt the upper mount to the slider itself. And then you can get the seat back out and put the cable across the sliders. All right, so now it's all bolted in. You can test the function of the seat if you have a reclining seat and whatnot. So we have left and right adjusted. I'm going to go ahead and tighten up the base to the actual Jeep body itself. And then we'll remove the 4 bolts for the seat, pull the seat back out, and we'll go through the install of the cable. All right, so now we're going to do the cable that attaches the slider with the lever on it to the one that does not have a lever. The purpose of this is so when you pull this one here, it removes the claw from inside here, and the cable pulls this side and does the exact same operation over here. So you can move your seat forward and backwards. Pretty self-explanatory. I got this one on here, how it says, I think. I've never done this before, so I'm gonna learn this together. I don't know if that was proper English either, but whatever. All right, so I'm gonna wrap this around. I think you want to get this as tight as possible first, maybe not, and then work these down. Kind of do a little bit on one, a little bit on the other. That's how I was taught in these situations, but it may not matter. Okay, fingers crossed. Yeah, now it's a little loose. So I don't know. I may try and find something different than this. I'm not loving this, but maybe a cable has adjustment in the middle like you put on a gate or something like that. Because this is not even on the same tooth as this one is over here. I guess.
Gotta catch another fight. The apple bottom make 'em wanna bite. I just wanna have a good night.
Well, here's the deal. They weren't even. I didn't realize that this was on one tooth, and that was on a whole different tooth. So that may have been what the problem was. But now it's tight. Not moving. So it's also going to be easier if you have a seat in there and you're sitting on it, and it should work better as well. So either way, I'll adjust this one more time. I'm going to throw the seat back in right now and see how that looks. Okay, y'all, we got the seat all installed. The slider is working properly. And I want to kind of go over a couple things now that we have it in here. I went ahead and installed the passenger seat so you can kind of see the difference in height and width and all the things. Something I forgot to mention in the beginning of going over the actual seats themselves, we opted for 2-inch taller seat. Now that's only going to be from the back. It raises, forget the distance from here to here by 2 inches. Doesn't extend this, just this part, which ultimately does extend the top of the seat. You can get 2 times 2-inch taller and 4-inch taller. And so I talked to a couple people. Again, this is information that's hard to find. You call PRP. They don't go off of your height and say, oh, you need this seat. They just kind of say, well, you know, figure it out. And so here we are. This one is perfect that we got 2-inch. You want this gap here, or this hole where your harness comes through, to be level with your shoulders. You don't want the harness going up and then over your shoulders and down. That's not correct. So it's worked out. It's going to work out perfect. I've already set it here. It's nice fit. My head hits the back, and there's still plenty of room above around the Jeep because we have it on the lower setting. So we're going to bring the phone down here and just show you guys the height difference. So you can see how this seat over here is about 2 inches taller. Normally, if you would had bolted this seat to the PRP bracket and right to the OEM sliders and hardware and mounts, your seat would be, they say it's about 1.5 inches taller than that seat over there. So I'm at the second to lowest setting. Again, the lowest setting would be bolting this bracket here to the base bracket without the slider. So you can see that gap. That's about 3/4 of an inch. You would go down even lower, but you have no slide ability. This is, again, the other bracket. This hole would be bolted here, and then you bolt your seat to the top 3, and that raises it up, and I think it's 1.5 inches. And on the back, you have the same 1.5 inches here, but then you have one below it and one above it to make the back taller or the back lower. So we might go to these later down the road, but right now we're going to try this one here and see how it fits on both sides. You can put this on one side of the vehicle, and if somebody over there is short that rides on that side, and then you could do the no bracket over here or whatever you want to do. So that's the cool thing about out-of-hand fabrication, is all the different brackets they give you to give you this flexibility on the install. So that's going to be that seat. We're going to repeat the same process for the passenger seat. I may do a time lapse on that one, just kind of go through the motion, but it's identical to the driver's seat. Then after that, we're going to go through and do the back seat, which is different than the front, obviously, and we'll get that going here in a minute. We're heading over to the passenger side front seat to finish up the install for the front seats. I made a change yesterday after I did the driver's seat. I showed you guys pictures how the seats was just a little bit lower on the driver's side than the OEM passenger seat. I liked that at the time, but what I didn't realize was the padding in the OEM seat, you kind of sunk down a lot, and so basically they were kind of the same height because the PRP seat is much more firm, I guess you would say. So anyways, I ended up raising the driver's side seat with the secondary brackets, which are these ones right here. And then one thing I noticed as well using these guys was the if you're going to use a 5-point harness, they want you to bolt the seat to one of these 3 holes on the back and these 3 holes on the front, obviously. And then this hole is a 7/16. These are 3/8. So this bolts to the bottom bracket, the L bracket off of the slider, and then the PRP seat bolts to this on the top. So if you're going to be using a 5-point harness, they give you these guys to go into this 7/16 hole, but I feel like there's not enough room for the harness to bolt to this, and because the seat's there once I have it installed. So I went ahead and going to use the base bolt in the angle of the L bracket and this bracket here. So I drilled this one out right here to 7/16, which it tells you to do that if you're going to use this lower one or whatever. So I did that in the middle because I liked the cant, okay, the back and forth. So once I did that, I really don't think I could drill these other ones out much further because they will all just be one large slot. If I screw this up, I'll just buy another one of these. But for now, it's worked out great. So now I can put this bolt in here like so, and then I can hook the 5-point harness to that. It has a real nice solid mounting point on both sides. So that's what I pre-drilled and done for this one. I've also drilled it into the angle, the lower angle. Remember, this is the one that bolts onto, these 2 here bolt onto the slider, and it sits like this. And so, got it backwards, sorry. So this is, I enlarged this hole to 7/16. They tell you to do this anyways if you're not going to use the other brackets and you want to use this as your mounting point for your lap belt harness, okay? If you're not using the lap belt harness, then you just put the 3/8 bolt, you're done. But if you can put the 7/16, you have to enlarge the hole out. So I did that there as well. This guy will now go on here. If I can do this without dropping these things. This will now go on here. You'll see that slide over. Now that's the same size hole there for the bolt to go through. Like that. Like so. So you get this nifty little the spacer spaces it out so the harness can stick right here and go around the seat and up over the top of your leg and onto the clasp. So really cool design. Again, shout out to Out of Hand Fabrication for thinking about all these different things. It's really cool. So love those guys. All right, we're going to get to it. Okay guys, that concludes the front passenger seat install. A couple things to note. That slider is no joke. Like, it fought me. I had to turn off the camera because it was just taking too long. I lubricated them both before I put them on the passenger side because the driver's side was stiff, but it lined up well. The passenger side didn't line up as good for some reason, and the teeth were off just a smidget so it wouldn't lock both sides at the same time. So I had to go there and do some more adjustments on that, kind of get that down pat, but I got it. But it took a little bit of time. And that cable, man, I'm just not a fan of that cable. I'm going to have to get something different. Maybe the different brand sliders, well, just by themselves that are out there that people have. I've heard of some people taking the sliders off the OEM seats, just the sliders themselves and putting them on. I don't know. I'm going to look into that and see. Shoot me a comment if you know a better brand of slider or a different method of doing this versus these. I think it's just a quality thing with that one component that's not made by Out of Hand Fabrication, but it's just something they purchased to put in their kit. So they may all be the same. It just may be what it is. So anyways, we're gonna. The other thing I did was I noticed that when I had the slider all the way back, the seat still was not fully at its rearward most position. Meaning there's a couple inches between the roll bar. So right here, there's a couple inches here, and there still is. But if you want to recline the seat to where it's comfortable, the top hits the roll cage on the bottom. There's still some gap on the back. But before, it was I could recline too far and still had more room on the bottom, but I could not obtain that distance because the slider was maxing out on the little teeth. So I moved the seat back one notch or one hole on the upper bracket. I could actually move the base because those sliders bolt into 3 different holes, and I put it in the middle. I could put it in the rear one as well, which will gain another, I think, another inch. But I don't know. We're going to just try this one to see what it does. Again, there's a lot of adjustments on these things, so you're going to spend some time, installing it, driving it, and I haven't even drove it yet. So it could be all out of whack, but I'm just trying to get the feel the same way it did before, so I have the same visibility, because when you get used to your rig, rock crawling and seeing over the hood and tire placement, you kind of learn it from your height in the vehicle. And so if you change that, then you kind of have to relearn some of those things. So anyways, long story short, so now we're going to head over to the back and get that rolling here in just a minute. All right, y'all, we're going to go ahead and do the rear seat install. Again, just an overview. We're going to use the Motobuilt brand rear seat mount. Here's the hardware and all the different brackets that we showed you guys earlier. The tools that I feel we're going to need off of the size hardware. These are the instructions. Theirs are all online with the QR code. But I want to kind of note, these are the insert here, page, I think it's 8 and 9 or something here for if you're going to do a bucket seat, which we are not. We're doing the bench seat. So the bucket will have these two brackets here, which are these additional ones right here. Okay, so we are going to be using these. I would like to still install them if they'll clear the bottom of the seat, because it'll just give more added support to this front bracket. But if not, then it is what it is. So, because obviously that's how it's made to be installed without those pieces. So we're going to get over to it. All right, so start with these corner pieces, it looks like. Throw these guys down on here. And like always, do a little bit at a time. A little bit of adjustment there. All right, now this is that rear center bracket, and like we talked about before, this is the bridge between the front and the rear support. And one might ask, well, why put this in if you're not using the bucket seats? And the reason being is two things. One, this is going to be the seat belt or 5-point harness or 4-point harness mount for the center right here off of this. So you have to have this for your, your seat belts and whatnot. Number two, I'm going to try and actually use it anyways if we can. So, and plus, you paid for it, might as well put it in there. All right, a little bit loose there. This little guy right here. All right, from there we move on to the larger front brackets. We'll run these down. All right, so this guy goes in next. This thing goes here, but if you're going to be doing the brackets that go from front to back, the bolts go through this one, and then this is the time you put those on. So we'll go ahead and give it a shot without first and see what happens. And my fear is once this is on here, not really a fear, but just an idea that if this is, even though these are tight, you still got, movement here. This end will have a bracket that goes here eventually. Likewise over there with the seat bolts on, but there's nothing really holding this up other than these two bolts here. And I feel like it would be nice to have a bar here. If they don't fit, I may just go cut them and just put a piece of flat bar right here and bolt it in anyway. So. That's everything installed loosely right now. Give it some flexibility. So we're gonna now, I'm gonna just tighten up the back two bolts and these front ones, and then throw the seat in here and see if it clears these brackets here. If it does, then we'll start tightening everything down, knowing we can leave these in. If for some reason they don't, then we'll pull them out and then follow the instructions like we're supposed to. So I'll go around and zip these down real quick. Doesn't look like it's gonna work. Aww. Looks like the rear bracket hits the seat, and that might end up eventually tearing the material right back here. Yep. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and cut. I'll go ahead and take these out, and then I'm gonna trim off this 90-degree and just do a piece of flat bar and then put that back in later. But for now, we'll take them out for the install because I don't want to tear up the seat. So, all right. So that concludes the rear bench seat. Looks good. It's supposed to have an additional inch of clearance between the seats together. I don't know how you measure that when the front seats move, but whatever. But it looks like there's a little bit more room. But a lot of extra space down here for all kinds of activities and things, and mounting stuff to the front. So looking forward to that. So this concludes the second part series of the install on the seats for the Jeep. And the next episode will be, again, the 5-point harnesses on the front, the 4-point harnesses on the rear, and going over some electrical options for hooking up the heated seats. If anybody knows, I'm hearing that you cannot hook these up to the OEM switches for the seat heaters. Some people say you can, some people say you can't. If anybody knows, shoot me a comment. That would be awesome. I'd like to have a shortcut on that. Otherwise, I may have to hook up to the switches that comes in the kit and just mount those somewhere. But either way, we got to have those going on. But other than that, make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next video.